Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Petra Weldes, Senior Minister here. And we are starting our new book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. This is our new book for the month of May. I'm very excited about it. I've been thinking about this particular talk today for weeks. I couldn't wait to get here. So I'm really looking forward to this talk and this whole month's worth of talks. So we'll be exploring awareness and consciousness and that voice that's in our heads. That's what we'll be talking about. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. What about that voice in our head? What is that all about? What is up with that? What are we going to do about that? Why do we have that? What's really going on? What is really going on? And I thought about it. You know, I've been actually looking forward to this talk now for weeks. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys with this book. And I was thinking, gosh, I'm not really sure what I'm going to use as personal examples while I'm having this conversation. And then, of course, when we discovered that we were announcing the sabbatical today, I thought, oh, I have a lot of personal examples about that. So no problem with that. All right. So our inner critic, our inner state of being, who is that voice in our head? Michael Singer calls it our inner roommate. I don't actually remember renting out a room to my inner roommate, but she seems firmly ensconced, doesn't she? Or he, as the case may be. He says this: the first thing, if you spend some time observing this mental voice, the first thing you will notice is that it never shuts up. Yeah. When left to its own, it just talks. Imagine if you were to see someone walking around constantly talking to himself. Well, and we've seen that on our city streets. And what do you think about that person that you see talking to themselves and answering themselves? Not the one on the cell phone. We're not talking about the one on the cell phone. Right? You'd think that person was strange, and you'd wonder if he's the one who's talking and he's the one who's listening, he obviously knows what's going to be said before he says it. So, what's the point? The same is true for the voice inside your head. Why is it talking? It's you who's talking, and it's you who's listening. And when the voice argues with itself, who is it arguing with? Who could possibly win? Yeah, it gets very confusing, doesn't it? So, the first thing about this inner roommate is that it never stops talking. And have you noticed that it gives you seriously bad advice? Seriously bad advice. We heard some of that. This lady was singing. What is that? Is that a wrinkle? Is that a wrinkle? Yeah, nobody's going to want to date you anymore. Right? Or all that, or you're too old, you know it's going to be hard for you, the job, you're way too old. Story after story, advice after advice that we get from that inner critic. Think about it for just a minute. So we're going to take a moment. Let's hear from you. What is the most obnoxious thing that your inner voice says to you? What is the thing that your inner voice most often says to you?
Not enough time.
Not enough time. You're getting fat. You're not good enough. They don't love you. Why are you going there anyway? They don't love you. They're not going to pay attention to you.
What are the neighbors doing?
What are the neighbors going to think? Oh my God. Okay, so I have to tell you a story about that. This is right, in Europe, in Germany. My mother was raised in Germany, and they did all their laundry by hand way back when, and in the big kettles downstairs in the basement. And in the winter time, they would hang them up willy-nilly on the line. It didn't really matter. But in the summer, all the underwear had to be coordinated. All the handkerchiefs had to be coordinated, because what would the neighbors think? They had to hang their laundry according to what it was, because the neighbors are watching. Unbelievable, isn't it? Completely true. Completely true, and we laugh, but I'm thinking that there are things we do based on what the neighbors will think. Okay, so we're clear about what this voice is, right? We're in agreement, and it can give us some seriously bad advice. Now, the other problem is not only does it give us seriously bad advice, but it will give us conflicting advice. You really should take that job. You really should take that job. It's important. You have the insecurity of having a job. Yeah, but I don't know if you're going to get a better job, if you're going to make enough money at that job. Maybe you should look for another job. No, I really think you should. I think I should take that job. I really think I should take that job. Yeah, but what if it's one I don't like? No, you really should take that job. And back and forth we go. Back and forth we go. And we have this conversation incessantly, don't we? About our looks, our clothes, our partners, our jobs, our homes, our relationships, on and on it goes. So, why do we have this inner voice? Why? What is it doing? What purpose does it serve? What could it possibly be doing there? Since we all seem to have it, none of us are an exception. So this is what Michael Singer postulates. If so much of what the voice says is meaningless and unnecessary, then why does it even exist? The secret to answering this question lies in understanding why it says what it says when it says it. For example, so here's his first thought about why we have this inner voice. In some cases, the voice talks for the same reason that a tea kettle whistles. That is, there's a buildup of energy inside that needs to be released. And the voice talks because you're not okay inside. So talking releases the energy. So there's a buildup of anxiousness, anxiety, not feeling good enough, wondering if you're ever going to find another partner, or you're ever going to find another job, or you're ever going to find that perfect thing, or you're ever going to be your ideal weight again, or whatever it is, you're having this, and anxiety builds up, you're upset, wondering how your business is going to do in this business environment, and some energy begins to build up, some anxiousness, some upset, or maybe you just get mad at somebody or something. And the talking is an opportunity to begin to release some of that energy. Okay, so that feels harmless enough, that's okay. But you'll notice, he goes on to say, that even when you're not particularly bothered by something, it still talks. Right? I've been just fascinated by this. Of course, I've been reading the book, preparing for this talk, and I was sitting this morning. I was sitting out on the patio. I was meditating and getting ready, and just sitting there. And all of a sudden, I noticed that what I was doing, instead of enjoying the beautiful morning, is that I was talking to myself about the beautiful morning. Wow, look at how the sunlight is on those leaves. That's really amazing. I just love the way the water, the sun reflects on the water and makes those cool things on the fence. I actually heard myself say, I wonder what that's called. Maybe I should Google that. So am I actually in the experience? Not really. I am talking to myself about the experience. So I might not even be talking about anything negative, right? We're just having a conversation with ourselves about what's going on. He calls this, we're narrating the world for ourselves. We're actually narrating the world for ourselves. But why do we do this? Why do we have this incessant conversation going on? So just really want you to pay attention to this. He's really caught on to something. What you'll see, if you study this carefully, is that the narration makes you feel more comfortable with the world around you. It makes you feel as though those things that you're narrating and talking about are more in control, because you actually feel like you're having a relationship with them. So you have this conversation about what's going on, so that we think that we're having this experience, rather than simply sitting in it. And this becomes particularly important when it's a conversation where maybe we're not like hugely upset about something, but maybe we're just not, gosh, did I get the right train? Do I have the right terminal? Do I have the right information? Am I in the right place? Let's see, I'm not really sure. Oh, what if I don't get the train? What if I miss it? What shall I do? Where shall I, do you see, we're constantly narrating, oh, I know, let's see, there must be a porter around here somewhere. There's an information booth. And you see, we talk to ourselves, and then we answer ourselves so that we feel like we're in control of what's going on. We're having this conversation. This, in our inner world, he says this inner world is an alternate environment that is actually under your control. Your inner world is actually under your control. The outer world is not. You might have missed the train. You might be at the wrong terminal. You might have the wrong time, or you might not. These are things that are simply facts. But when we talk to ourselves, we walk ourselves through something, and we begin to feel as though we have a measure of control. So what you end up experiencing is really a personal presentation of the world according to you, rather than the stark, unfiltered experience of what is really out there. This mental manipulation of the outer experience allows you to buffer reality as it comes in. This narration allows us to buffer reality as it comes in. So you walk outside, it's chilly outside, well, not today, obviously, but let's say in the winter you walked outside and it was chilly outside. How many of us say to ourselves, oh, it's cold. Well, I'll have to put a sweater on, or we'll say to ourselves, oh, well, that's all right, I'll be home soon and then I'll be warm. You see, rather than simply being cold, we actually create a dialogue around the experience so that we will feel in control of it, so that we will feel better about the experience. Well, I'm not going to be cold for very long, it's all right, I'm going to be home soon and then I'll be warm. Do you see? Okay, and we do this with everything. Whatever it is, good, bad, and ugly. In every area of our life, we do this so that we feel as though we are managing and controlling life. Yeah, how's it working for you? That's good, right? Because there's really nothing out there that we manage and control. The only thing we ever manage and control is what's going on in here. That's the only thing we can ever manage and control, is what's going on inside. We can't manage those things. And another example, okay, so the first one is just sort of managing, okay, it's cold and I want to feel in control, so I'm going to remember I'm going to be warm when I get home. But now let's think about something that's not so pleasant. And let's say I have a presentation to do. Oh, let's say I have a sabbatical to go on and it's going to be announced. And I'm thinking, I wonder how that's going to go. Now, afterwards, let's say somebody in line says to me something like, gosh, we're really going to miss you while you're gone. And I immediately think, oh my God, is it okay? Will they be okay with me being gone? Maybe they don't really like me. Yeah, I think they're probably going to leave while I'm gone because they don't really like me anyway. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they leave while I'm gone. Really, it doesn't matter because they don't like me anyway. Do you see how we sort of spin this story out, this conversation that we have about ourselves? And by making it about them, I don't actually have to feel my own anxiousness, do I? Because now it's about you. Now it's about that other person. We do a presentation, we do a presentation, and somebody in the back of the room doesn't like it. And afterwards, maybe it's even our boss that says, well, you really needed to do this and that and whatever. And I'm giving you some constructive criticism here because I really want you to do well. And you walk away and you think, what a jerk. That person, what a jerk. They couldn't have said something nice to me first. I did my best on that. Well, he just doesn't appreciate me. I just don't feel appreciated. I don't think anybody ever appreciates me around here. He is just so unappreciative. I wonder how he does that at home. And on and on and on we go, right? Now, I don't have to feel my feelings around either my pride that I did the presentation well, or accepting some guidance from someone. I don't have to feel any of those feelings. Do you see, in the conversation, I've manipulated in such a way that I've now made it about that other person. Does that make sense? So not only am I buffering myself from reality, but now what I'm doing is I am using this conversation as a protection mechanism to keep myself from feeling the feelings of my reality, whatever they are, to keep myself from experiencing it. I can talk myself, all of us, we can talk ourselves out of joy. We can talk ourselves out of enthusiasm. We can talk ourselves out of spontaneity. We can talk ourselves out of going for it. We can talk ourselves right into all kinds of fears and anxieties and all those kinds of things. And we don't want to have those experiences, so we push it all out there. It's all somebody else is doing. And we use the inner dialogue. Do you see? We use the inner dialogue to move it from what I'm experiencing to something outside of myself. And then I don't have to deal with it anymore because it's that person's fault, and it's something that they have to work on. The bottom line, he goes on to say, is undeniable. So he gives us a thought experiment. Okay, so your inner roommate never stops talking, gives you seriously bad advice, buffers you from reality so that you don't have to experience it, and is this like major protection mechanism that is not necessarily doing you any favors whatsoever. And did we say it never stops talking? Right. Okay, so imagine that you take that inner critic, that inner voice, and you give it flesh and blood, and you like pretend that it's your best friend. Does it feel like your best friend? Yeah, not so much, right? Okay, but now the problem is that not only is it your best friend, but you're kind of like chained at the ankles. So you actually have to take this best friend with you everywhere, all the time. How do you feel about that? Yeah. Boot. Give him the boot. Give him the boot as fast as you can. The bottom line is undeniable. If somehow the voice managed to manifest in a body outside of you, and you had to take it with you everywhere you went, you wouldn't last a day. If someone were to ask you what your new friend is like, you'd say, well, this is one seriously disturbed person. Just look up neurosis in the dictionary. Look at the picture. He goes on somewhere and he describes that voice as your inner maniac. Why are you listening to your inner maniac? Really, why? Are you paying any attention to it? Has it helped you in the past? Not so much. So, we have this inner roommate. We all have it. We're all stuck with it. Yeah. What is going on? What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? So, we had this fabulous opportunity in the Ministers and Practitioners DFW retreat that Reverend Dr. Kathy Hearn was here for last week to do with us. She used some wonderful material that if you ever take the class Financial Freedom here, you'll be exposed to. And I want to give a shout out to Marcia Sutton and Lloyd Strong for writing all of this material. It's just really amazing. And this particular way of looking at it comes from Hinduism. And they've built this coach to everywhere. So this is another way we can think about ourselves and about what's going on. So we live in this coach to everywhere. I discovered I had a pointer this morning. I'm very excited. Of course, I had to talk to myself about the pointer and whether I was doing it right. Right. Okay. So here's the coach, right? The coach is your physical body. That's your physical vehicle, your coach. You're living in your coach. And this represents the master. This master is you, the I am that I am that's awake. This is the awakened being that knows the truth of who it is. He or she is, right? She knows that she's in a coach, and she is giving information through intuition to the driver, the mind, that is making decisions, right? Because somebody has to make decisions, and that's the job of our mind, to catalog and to categorize and to say, I want to do this and not that. And so the driver is the mind, and the horse here is the emotions. The horse is the go juice. It is the juice that makes your life go. And we know that even from our spiritual work, from our treatments and affirmations. Without the emotions of being a part of it, they fall flat. They're just words. So the horse pulls the carriage, pulls the coach, guided by the driver. But in the best of all possible worlds, the master is awake and is in charge and is giving direction. I want to express my life this way. I want to share love that way. This is where we're going to experience all the good that life has to offer. And we go on this coach to everywhere, this path to everywhere that takes us home to heaven. Okay, It's good so far. Yeah. Who are these people? Who are these people? Yeah, not looking so happy, are they? This is your passenger. One might call him your inner roommate. Yes, your inner critic. This passenger, yeah, and if you have them in your family, you call them the backseat driver, right? And so this is the false beliefs that we've created over time about ourselves and about how life works. These are the things that are happening. We talk about it in Science of Mind, in our subconscious mind. These are those little ideas that are running in the background. So I have to really tell you, this is just, it's so funny to me. So I told you the story about how Susan suggested since I have these 2 events in Europe, that I simply stay in Europe, and I was like totally verklempt. I just felt so loved and supported. It was fabulous. And the core council was so supported. And so I came home, I went home, and I said to Susan, yeah, okay, I can do this. This is really great. Oh my God, I'm going to be in Europe for 2.5 months by myself. Okay, I'm freaked out. Okay, I can do this. So I went to bed that night, and I lay in bed and I thought about, well, let's see, I have a conference in August in Switzerland. Let's see, I wonder what the weather is going to be like. And then I have a conference in October in Italy. It's going to be October, but it's still going to be kind of warm. And I'm going to go to England and I'm going to see my sister. Well, I better do that in August while it's still warm. And I'm going to be using the Eurail pass, so I'm going to need a really small suitcase. I don't think I can go. I don't know. No, I'm sure I can't go. Okay, can I tell you, I went around that circle 4 times that night. No, really, you can go. The core council said you can go. Susan said you can go. Surely you are smart enough to figure out how to pack about this. I went around and I kept trying to talk myself out of going. And what did I do? I projected it onto the packing, onto the suitcase. It is the suitcase's fault. It's not big enough. So, am I having my feelings? No. Am I experiencing my reality? No. I am buffering my experience of my own reality by going off on this tangent about packing and having this big conversation about packing with myself because I don't want to confront my own freak out. Being in Europe for 2.5 months by myself! Okay, can we just have a moment of freak out about that? And then we don't have to be about the packing. The packing will take care of itself. Do you see? Okay, so we get through the night, and I say to Susan, I'm just letting you know that even though I don't know how to pack, I'm still going. She looks at me like I am insane. Yes, that would be the inner roommate speaking. Okay, so I don't do anything for a while because I'm still in freak out. Then I'm in okay, so then I decide, well, the plane tickets are paid for. The plane tickets are paid for. Are you paying attention to this? The plane tickets are paid for. You can get the plane tickets. They're paid for. By the conference, it's okay. You can get the plane tickets. So I spend an afternoon going to the computer, checking out the plane tickets. I'm going to go, in August. I'm going to come back in October. I'm figuring out, okay, if you actually leave on Wednesday, it's a little cheaper than leaving on Friday. So I figure out what's the thing I have to be back for, and I get my dates, and I get all the thing, and poof, there's a plane ticket. And it's only a tiny bit more expensive than the allowance that they've given me for a plane ticket. And they've said if it's not too much more expensive and we have good reservations, we'll be able to pay extra. So I think, oh, maybe they'll be able to cover this last little bit as well. And I'm about ready to push the submit button. No. Yeah, you know what? I don't think the church is going to go for this. Okay, the core council said it was okay, and Susan said it was okay. Do you know that I got up 4 times and walked away from my computer and had a freak out about what was going to happen with the community? They're all going to leave. Nobody's going to give any money. They're all going to leave. They're going to think I'm leaving, and it's going to be terrible and horrible, and I'm going to come back, and there's going to be nobody left. Disaster thinking. Disaster thinking? How many of us do disaster thinking? Oh my God. We go from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. Right? It is going to be so horrible and terrible. Oh my God, I can't do this. walked away from the computer 4 times, and 4 times I had to say to myself, the ticket is paid for, the ticket is paid for, Susan supports you, the court counsel supports you, you don't have any other no. And then, the last time I was like, are you sure there isn't anybody else that I need to ask? Thinking, who would that be? Who would I be asking? Okay, just push the damn button, boom, submit. And I walked away. I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't even watch it do its thing with it. Neuroses, maniac. Can you hear it in there? That was my inner passenger talking. All my fears, all my doubts, all my, okay, you're not good enough. You're really not doing it right. Are you sure this is really a good time for you to be leaving, to be doing this? Maybe there's a better time. See, I also have I have a number of passengers. One of my most serious passengers is this the responsible thing to be doing? Let's think about that for a minute. That's a very serious passenger I have. That passenger seems to drive my coach a lot. But I also have a passenger that gets anxious, and I have a passenger that I know what I really discovered and what was really, what's part of the gift of the whole process in all of this for me. And we'll notice here, right, we begin to see what is available to us is as I stopped allowing myself to simply be focused on the words and the conversation that I was having with myself, and I began asking myself, what's really going on? I was confronted with 2 of my passengers that are still in my coach. One is I'm run by my sense of responsibility, and 2 is I'm really not sure I deserve it. I'm really not 100% sure that it's okay for me to take 3 months completely for myself. Completely for myself. I'm in a partnership. I love my partner. Surely we would want to go vacationing together. Right? I love my community. We have things to do, places to go, things that are going on. Can I really, is it really okay? I'm not so sure. That's who's talking right there. That's who kept me from back and forth with the computer. And I'm thinking that you have a few of those passengers yourself. I don't know if yours is worthiness or responsibility or I'm not good enough. We all have some pretty vociferous, loud, out there passengers. And they speak a lot, right? Okay, so now the other really amazing thing about this journey here that you'll notice is, okay, so you see this guy here, and notice these guys out here. They look kind of the same, don't they? Right? Pedestrians. These are the pedestrians on the way. And they say, oh, go this way. No, you should go that way. You should do this, you should do that, or you're not doing it right, whatever it is. And they call these passengers temptations, which I think is just absolutely fascinating. The passengers represent the temptations of life that we meet along the way on our spiritual journey. The great irony is that they simply are an outer expression of our inner errors. Notice that they look the same. So if we are really not willing to see what is underneath that constant chatter or that story that we've gotten hooked on, if we are not willing to look at that, what we do is we push all of that now outside of us onto the people and circumstances around us. In other words, whenever we suppress our passenger in an attempt to be good, we pretend that it's not there, we don't pay any attention to it, they pop up outside of us as persons and circumstances that tempt us to be bad. Now, not bad in terms of evil and wrong and stuff like that, but bad in terms of not behaving in alignment with who we said we wanted to be. Not behaving in alignment with the choices that we said we wanted to make in our more sane moments. Not behaving in a way that allows our spiritual truth to come forward. Their favorite trick is to tempt us to not love them. Their favorite trick is to tempt us to not love them. Of course, our natural tendency is to want to suppress the pedestrian, and this, however, this will only strengthen them and will also serve to strengthen the passenger. So, when we are faced, what we want to look at now is not only when are we not paying attention to what's underneath that voice, because we want to ultimately not be about what the voice is talking about. We want to be about what's really going on. And we want to, when we're not willing to do that, now all of a sudden that person or that situation shows up out there. Remember the jerk that we talked about, the boss that was the jerk? Right? We gave a presentation and somebody doesn't look at us right, or somebody doesn't like it the way that we think they should, or they give us some constructive criticism, but we don't feel worthy. We don't feel enough. And do you see now it's that person's fault for being a jerk? Because I don't want to feel my feelings. I don't want to acknowledge that I still have a passenger that says I'm not good enough. So now you become the jerk. You become someone that I am tempted to not love. Rather than seeing the spiritual truth of who you are, now I get to talk about you and tell all my friends about what a jerk you are and how horribly you behave and that sort of thing. Do you see what I'm saying? And so what's going on the outside that we are having conversations about is a reflection of what's going on in here that we are having conversations about. And in both cases, we're not looking at what's really going on. We are buffering ourselves from our own reality, and we are protecting ourselves from the, the awkwardness of having to say, wow, I didn't realize I was still so run by my I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough. I didn't realize I was still so frightened by that situation, those kinds of people. I didn't realize that I was still so unwilling to speak up, that I was withdrawing, and instead I made it your fault. You see what I'm saying? So this is an opportunity now for us to kick the inner critic out, shut the inner roommate off. What to do? Well, let's go back to the very beginning. Here you are, you're talking to yourself. You're having a conversation. I should do this. No, you shouldn't. That's a bad idea. Yes, I think this is maybe it's a bad idea. What if my intuition is telling me that I should be doing this? Well, how do you know that it's your intuition? Are you really paying attention? Well, I'm really not sure. What happens if we take one step back and we begin to notice what our thoughts are doing? The very, very first thing is to notice that you can notice your thoughts. You can actually notice that you're having this conversation. What does that mean? What does it mean that you can notice the fact that you're having the conversation? You can control it, but even more importantly than that, you are not it. Right? You are not the conversation. You are actually standing back here, noticing it. You can actually step back. Now, think about every time you've said, "Oh, I just can't stop thinking about it. Oh, I'm so anxious. I just can't stop being anxious." We get overtaken by our thoughts and our experiences. And what we've done is, in the Coach to Everywhere, what we've done is we've actually put the master to sleep. We pretend that the master doesn't exist, that the master is asleep, and that this guy is in charge. But this guy's not in charge, and the master is there, and all we have to do is wake up. And the way that we wake up is by noticing that we can notice our thoughts. The moment that we can notice our thought, notice our feeling, notice what's going on, notice what's happening, we have that gap, that moment to step back and say, "Oh wait, that's not me." Now all of a sudden something all new has opened up. A whole new awareness has opened up. where I can begin to actually say, is this what I want to be thinking about? We saw Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life on Friday night. It was fabulous. I know it's an older movie, but oh man, it was great. Metaphysics 101. Go back to affirmations. When we do affirmations, what we're doing is we are displacing our passenger with new thoughts. We're displacing the passenger, and the master is saying, no, this is what I'm going to think about. I'm going to think about how abundant the universe is. I'm going to think about how supported I am. I'm going to think about how worthy I am. I'm going to think about how loved I am. That's what I'm going to think about. That's the master being in charge of the mind. That's the master here giving direction to the mind as opposed to the passenger giving direction to the mind. When we do our affirmations, we're actually having the master be in charge. And we get to the place where we can do that because we notice that we can notice. Wow. Remember from The Art of Possibility when he said the thing to say when you make a mistake? How fascinating. Like, what if we did that with our inner critic, our inner roommate, that's like a little neurotic and a maniac, and we just looked at it and said, wow, that is so fascinating. I mean, I have to tell you, that when I told Susan the story about the computer and me with the plane tickets, I was howling. I thought it was so funny because by that time I had stepped back and I was able to notice what I had done, and it was hysterical to me that had completely overtaken me for that hour period of time. We can notice that we're noticing. Okay, so when we discover that this process is going on and we really feel overtaken by our passenger or overtaken by the pedestrian out here, which is just a reflection of our passenger, when we are really in the space where we're noticing that, the question is not, what do I do now? The question is not, how do I fix this problem? Michael Singer, in this wonderful book, he suggests the question really is, what part of me is being disturbed? What part of me is being disturbed? This question illuminates the passenger. This question illuminates the false belief, the false idea that we have, the place where we still believe in our smallness, our littleness, our fear, our insecurities, our past stories, the horrible things that happened to us way back when, whatever it is. When we can ask the question, what part of me is disturbed, our inner passenger is illuminated, our inner roommate is illuminated, and we get to see what's really going on. And we begin to have a direct experience of our own reality. Now, when we have asked that question, we begin to have a measure of control of our thoughts. But again, it begs the question, who has control of my thinking? Who is this that can take this step back? Who is the master that can say, no, I'm no longer going to think about that. I'm no longer going to give any credibility to my fear. I'm now going to affirm that my life is working, that I'm happy, that things are going well. Whatever I choose to. Who is this I? Who is this I that sees? Michael Singer, he's quoting one of the great Eastern yogis, and he asks the question, who is this I? Here's the question. Who is it that sees? Who is it that knows? So now if I ask you, who are you? You answer, I am the one who sees. From back in here somewhere, I look out. I am aware of the events, thoughts, and emotions that pass before me. But I am not any one of those. If you go very deep, this is where you live. You live in the seat of consciousness. A true spiritual being lives there without effort and without intent. Just as you effortlessly look outside and see all that you see, you will eventually sit far enough back inside to see all your thoughts and emotions and the outer experience that you're having. When we start to ask the question, who am I? Who is this I that is able to notice? Not who is the I that's talking. We already know that the I that's talking is a maniac, right? A little neurotic, really confused, doesn't really have a clue. What we want to know is who is the I that can notice? Who is the I that can direct? This I is our ability to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of what's going on. This is the I that sees and the I that knows. If you really want to understand consciousness, recognize that it can focus on anything. That being the case, what if consciousness were to focus on itself? When that happens, instead of being aware of your thoughts, you're aware that you're aware of your thoughts. You turn the light of consciousness back on itself. The simple awareness of being aware is the very first key. You are now aware of who you are, and you have actually become an awakened being. This is what it means to be enlightened. It doesn't mean you sit for 3 hours cross-legged on a meditation pillow. It doesn't mean you have some deep radical experience of the divine every moment of the day. It doesn't mean you speak in a soft voice. To be enlightened means that you are aware of the fact that you are aware. And in that moment, you've woken up. You've woken up to the truth of your own consciousness. You've woken up to the truth of your own being. You've discovered who you actually are. You've discovered the master in your own coach. And when you discover the master, you are standing in the reality of your own being. Unlimited, expansive being directly experiencing the reality of who you are and the life that you're creating. This is what it means to be conscious. To be an enlightened being is to be aware of the fact that you are aware. When we do that, do you see? That awareness provides that moment of gap. It is in that moment of gap that we are given the greatest gift that we have as spiritual beings having a human experience. We're given in that moment the gift to choose. How will I be? What will I say? How will I act? What will I affirm? Do you see? When I am aware that I am aware, I am no longer overtaken by my thoughts or emotions or by the situation that's going on. That provides that moment of gap, and it is in that moment that we exercise the greatest freedom that we have, the deepest spiritual reality of us that there is. We exercise the freedom to choose. And we have learned over time that choosing life, love, choosing peace, choosing God, choosing joy, choosing all of those qualities is what makes our life so powerfully fulfilled and so magnificent. So I invite you this week, practice being aware of the fact that you are aware and see what that opens up for you. Let us pray. So I just invite you to go within, taking a moment to breathe. And let's just take a moment to notice whatever thoughts there are and step back from them. Just step back from the thought and let it play itself out. It doesn't matter. The truth is there is an unlimited, expansive being right where you are, a child of God, a presence of light and love. It is having this incredible experience called your life. And that you are here to make manifest the glory of God through your experience, through your coach, and your road to everywhere. Right now, let us affirm and declare that our Master is awake, that we are awake, that we are the Master in our own coach. And we simply release any passengers. We release any false ideas, any old behaviors, any old thoughts that have no place in our coach. Because we know the truth of who we are. And from this truth, we move out into the world and we bring love and light and blessing and healing wherever we go. And it is in this place that we are so grateful. We're grateful to know this truth. We're grateful to affirm it this morning. We're grateful to experience it. We call it good. And so it